Paradigm Review Show. We are back. Killers of the Flower Moon 2023. Crime, drama. Martin Scorsese, Leonardo DiCaprio, Robert De Niro. It's based on a book of the same name, Killers of the Flower Moon, The Osage Murders, and the Birth of the FBI by David Grann. That's actually the cover I have behind me. I tried to use the movie cover and it just didn't look good. So thought I'll bring some more awareness to the book. But anyway, shout out to everybody who came through in the chat. That was our channel, our boy Jerome, French Wrecking Crew. What up, man? How you been? I know some of you guys came through a little bit early and we got our late start because Gaz was over on Fed Up, but we are multi-streaming on PXF, youtube.com/PlanetXFilm. Like, subscribe, share. We're going to have exclusive stuff coming up, post 900 subs, which is coming soon. Head on over to Gaz's channel, Fed Up. Gaz, you just had a interview earlier, if you want to plug that.
Yeah, I interviewed a sludge doom metal band who are based around Dungeons and Dragons, but more on the horror side of things. So if that is of any interest to any of you, certainly check it out. And we talked all things grimdark, extreme metal, and lots of other areas of interest. Going forward in the future, we will have more multi-streaming capabilities here over at Planet X Films, so we'll be streaming to many other destinations, so definitely stay tuned on that. And looking forward to getting into this today. And what up, yo?
Yes, folks, show. And shout out to everybody else behind the scenes. It's helping us to bring additional programs. So probably what you're all waiting for me to say is Zodiac Files Episode 4 coming soon. How many shows can I say that for until it actually comes? We might set a new record on that one. I don't know. Possibly Zodiac Files Debate Series Volume 2 if we can get everyone's schedule right, because I know that's what you guys are centered on. But in the meantime, there's been a lot of things going on. You can check out my interview with Ned DeHaan on Black Box Online Radio, BBOR. Check that channel where we did Zodiac and DB Cooper. And getting on to film news, I do want to say rest in peace to Richard Roundtree. The original Shaft actor. You guys have seen Shaft. There's what are they on, 3 remakes now? I know Samuel L. Jackson was our generation, but before that, Richard Roundtree was the original. And then I think they did that third one. I think you watched that, guys. And it had all 3 of them, right?
It did, yeah.
And it was up and down, yeah.
Yeah, that one sadly wasn't so great, but definitely shout out to him.
Classic actor nonetheless.
Yeah,
so anyway, and then additional releases. Sly documentary is out on Netflix. Invincible season 2, I believe, just started on Amazon. We're waiting for The Boys season 4. We're going to be reviewing that here. And then other stuff on Netflix. I don't think The Killer comes out here till next week, guys. I think it might be the 10th or the 11th or something like that.
Yeah, 13th drops on the 13th on Netflix, starring Michael Fassbender. That's one we can look at. I did see The Retribution last night, with Liam Neeson, which sadly wasn't so great. So I'm going to recommend to the guys who maybe do a pass on that one.
His have been up and down. Maybe a roast on Fed Up if you guys absolutely demand it, but I don't think it's over here. But of course, The Killer is David Fincher, director of Zodiac, Fight Club, etc. And then there's also Reptile with Benicio del Toro.
I do want to shout out the creator. I know I've plugged that in a few shows, but if this convinces people to watch it again, because it's not bad, it's one of Gareth Edwards' movies, action sci-fi, all centered around AI as well, and there's really some good action sequences, so it's not a bad movie.
For sure. So without further ado, The Killers of the Flower Moon. Right off the rip, what I want to say, because this is like the big hot commodity of all the reviews channel, interviewing this Martin Scorsese, DiCaprio, De Niro film. Right off the rip, one of the most depressing films I've ever seen in my life. I've seen the comparisons to Schindler's List, and I highly agree. Whenever you're watching a film about just a horrible atrocity, you know what I mean? It is very long, guys. It's 3.5 hours long, so we're not going to, I saw it in the theater. It did keep it moving. I really didn't even notice it was a nearly 4-hour film. That's mostly because the material is so emotional and you're so enamored by it that you're kind of just like, you get dropped into this story and you kind of want to see how it plays out. And of course, after over 3 hours of that, you know what I mean? You kind of know what note that it's going to end on as the plot elements kind of unravel and unveil there. But maybe before we get into plot elements, guys, I want to give them a little bit on the production. So it's an epic Western crime drama film based on the 2017 nonfiction book of the same name by David Grant, as I said, set in 1920s Oklahoma. And then it focuses on a series of murders against the Osage members. Killers of the Flower Moon premiered at the 76th Cannes Film Festival, and it was I believe bankrolled by Apple TV Plus and for the Apple Original Films, in addition to Paramount Pictures. One thing I saw about the Apple films, guys, is I believe they're involved in the Napoleon production as well. So they seem to be doing a lot of historical stuff for whatever reason that is.
Yeah, and that drops soon as well.
Apparently, at the time of what I'm reading, it grossed 102 million worldwide. And what I wanted to highlight was, yes, the $200 million budget, reportedly the largest amount ever spent on a film shoot in Oklahoma. So it was quite interesting how it was, again, even though I live in California, I've really never spent any time in the Midwest or any of the rural West. So, I mean, this is kind of, we've watched Westerns and we've all talked about Westerns before. And, you come for generally the landscapes and the cinematography of Oklahoma. I definitely think they nailed that unquestionably. It's just an extremely long film. So this is just the IMDb synopsis, guys. So if you can't figure this out from watching the trailer, you know what I mean? That's a you thing. When oil is discovered in the 1920s Oklahoma under the Osage Nation land, the Osage people are murdered one by one until the FBI steps in to unravel the mystery. So it's to give it a little more setup, guys, and then we'll get into your thoughts. It's my understanding that when Scorsese started this production, one thing that made it so long was they were following the book, like the actual book, true crime narrative. And then they realized that the actual story, at least for a film narrative purpose, is, DiCaprio and Gladstone's relationship, the love story, who is actually Molly, and DiCaprio plays Ernest Burkhart. So they really became the center of it. And then also the dude who plays, is it Jesse Plemons, who plays the FBI agent?
Yeah.
DiCaprio, I don't know if you know this, guys, but DiCaprio was originally, I think, signed to play him. And then originally then they moved him to the Ernest role. But I thought Jesse Plemons was badass. He was Tom White, and so we can get into more of that stuff. But just any of your initial thoughts, guys?
Yeah, I think just to give a spoiler on how I'm going to approach this review, I'm going to look at it from the artistic point of, in terms of acting, cinema quality, etc. Then the final score will be a two-step process. Again, like I've just said, look at the cinema artistic side. Then my personal thoughts. I'm of the opposite camp to Ross on this, but I can recognize the excellent cinema making regardless of my own personal taste. I think though what you do notice, a bit like I said with the Equalizer, when the movie does open, once we get past the initial, I guess, opening narration, the cinematography is, well, it's Scorsese. It's absolutely out there. The shoot and everything, and that continues throughout the film, and it really does bring that time period to life. So that is something that I immediately noticed.
Agreed. I would segueing off of that, I would say how he set up the oil field shots of those aerial shots of how you're coming into the Osage land, and the dude's driving DiCaprio's character through. He's like, whose land is this? Like right off the rip, they kind of pit white versus native, where he's like looking at all his land, like, oh my God, this is amazing. Whose land is it? He's like, my land. This is my land. And that kind of really sets it off of you're gonna see that struggle for the land, and you see how he establishes the oil landscape shots and just the lush farm landscapes, as Gaz was just saying.
Yeah, and what's interesting how they do that 20s film style in the black and white, showing you the real before, then it goes into color. And the way the camera is, it's kind of like how they do a lot of those wildlife documentaries where they're flying over with the overhead shots and you see the full oil fields and everything. That was fantastic.
Yeah, so I guess for people who don't really know anything about the Osage, from what they set up is they migrate from these other states like Missouri and Arkansas, and they ultimately settle in Oklahoma. That becomes their reservation. But they actually, because of them owning the land and the oil discoveries, they become one of the most wealthiest native tribes, like in the the United States. Excuse me for having to use that phrase in the circumstance, but you know what I mean. And so they do a very good job with the backstories of the history of the tribe, as Gaz was just saying. The most pierced arrows in any reservation county, and just things of that nature. They set up a lot of things that you might not necessarily know if you don't know Native history, but things that I would recommend either like reading this book or just looking up what the meaning of those things are, because it's definitely niche North America history, but definitely some advanced stuff that they kind of just throw you into, assuming that you know the context. But I don't think all of that is necessarily required for what I said, which was, the love story of the two main characters and just family against family. It's all things you've seen before in kind of Western. I don't want to say Western tropes, but things that you've seen before.
Yeah, and that's one of the aside from the actual main plot, which is obviously very tragic and horrendous, but that underlying sadness between Leonardo and Lydia Gladstone, their characters, because they obviously do love each other, and so, and I thought the film the film does a really good job of showing you that underlying like I said, that underlying sadness given the narrative that's happening.
100%. So you've got Molly, who her whole family's being taken advantage of, and then you've got I keep forgetting. Is it Bert? What was that? I keep forgetting.
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
Ernest.
Yeah.
God, sorry, 20s names. Ugh. So Ernest, who kind of has these adjustable morals, he is returning from the war or whatever his backdrop was, Gaz, and then his uncle is William King Hale. He is played by Robert De Niro, who's kind of more pure evil. And then Ernest is kind of more a useful idiot, you know what I mean, getting used as a pawn by his uncle.
Yeah, he gets manipulated and as you said, used as a pawn. And the film, right from their initial meeting, when Ernest goes back to the family home and he meets his uncle after so many years again. I think there's a line De Niro says where he kind of sets it up for Leonardo's character Ernest to meet Molly, to say it would be a good idea if you marry her, then we can keep the families, and you know already, well, this guy's after the oil. That's
he said that money. He said that money comes your way. He said, that's quite literally what he saed to him. And I that's a bit of a spoiler, guys, but you should get that from the trailer anyway. One thing I want to shout out quick, guys, before we go back into plot elements. I learned this from the description. Just a couple things. It's the 6th feature film collab between Scorsese and DiCaprio, and the 10th between Scorsese and De Niro. And it's the 11th and final collab between Scorsese and composer Robbie Robertson, who died 2 months before the film's release. The film's dedicated to Robertson, so definitely shout out to him. I think highlighting the music and the background score is something me and Gaz have been doing quite a bit in these last few reviews.
Yeah, and to follow on from that, another interesting one for folks, and I've seen this movie, but not for a long time. I believe this is the first time De Niro and Caprio worked together since This Boy's Life, which is an old 90s movie. And spoiler alert, De Niro is DiCaprio's stepfather in that movie who abuses him. So it's kind of it's an interesting parallel there that here we are, he's playing Ernest, who's being taken advantage of his uncle. And then the last movie they did together, This Boy's Life, was De Niro in a family position again, abusing his relative. So
I have a follow-up on that. So it's my understanding that post that first film, that's what made De Niro go to Scorsese and say, you might want to take a look at this DiCaprio kid. And that's pretty much what launched the Scorsese DiCaprio career, which is like Gangs of New York, The Departed, and all these other amazing classes. That's literally all because De Niro worked with a young DiCaprio and told Scorsese, like, hey, I think this guy is like the best up and coming Italian actor. And Scorsese was like, Bobby has like never said that to me in my career. He's never come to me once and said, hey, this other guy's really good. You might want to take a look at him. So that's what made Scorsese be like, okay, I'm going to take a look at this DiCaprio kid. Lo and behold, one of the best actors out now. I don't know. Like, again, guys, I don't want to do too many spoilers just because it's such a immersive and long film. But like we said, we could definitely review the production elements. But one scene I will highlight is when De Niro lashes, De Niro's Hale. When Hale lashes Ernest, did you notice what building they were in?
I didn't. I cannot remember, and I'm probably gonna. Is this a gas gaff when I've forgotten?
No, there's not much. Nothing is actually said about it, and I thought this was such a clever use of Scorsese because nothing is rightly pointed out about it. He just says, "Come meet me here." But if you know what that room looks like, me being a New England Boston guy, you guys used to hear me rant and rave about this to Gaz all the time on the old audio show. It was a Masonic hall. The checkered floor, the black and white checkered floor. He the podium. That was all Masonic references. So kind of, as Gaz said, kind of abusing him in the Masonic building. So a little bit of interesting, right?
Yeah.
So he doesn't say, "Come meet me at the Masonic Hall." I know it's a bit of a spoiler, sorry guys, if you haven't seen the film, but I think it was intentional. I think there was
definitely
kind of show that that 20s, 30s. Kind of colonizing, ideology.
Well, and it follows on from the Victorian period where they were everywhere in the Masonic cults. So
exactly. So so I think there was a little tidbit for the New World Order heads on there, but there's a lot in there, guys. So it's what we can talk about is Hale's role as this kind of pure evil colonizer. He is. He's deputized by their nation as a sheriff, and he has this massive ranch, and then he's bringing in all his white relatives and having them marry all the native women, and that's essentially their conduit for stealing the wealth from the Osage people. Well, Hale speaks fluent Osage, so I know. So this is what I do know, Gaz, is they did have the Osage language experts working on the film. So I know that there was a good amount of effort to get that right.
Yeah.
Now, my question for Gaz is, I always wonder with the white actors, it's Robert De Niro, a guy from, where's he from? Brooklyn, with an extremely New York Italian accent. So I'm having to wonder, like, how good of a job did De Niro do on the Osage dialogue? Did he nail it perfect, or were the Osage guys were like, the white New York guy, like, that's close enough. We could just roll to the next scene,
Yeah.
We'll never know. We're never going to know if he got every syllable right. So, but it sounded convincing. It sounded authentic.
Yeah, it did. I think probably as long as it was passable, it was certainly better than the non-existent native dialogue in Predator Prey.
Yeah, without doubt. Apparently, there is some version you can watch that has it on Hulu.
Right,
really? If you guys find anything on that, let me know. It's not going to make the movie better, but it will make it less colonized. But those are just kind of some things I want to point out. I mean, De Niro, again, a genius level actor, so he appeared to have at least strong command of the dialogue, which he did, which was actually way more than I would have thought for Robert De Niro having relatively low explanation.
And for the regional accent as well.
Right, 100%. Yeah. Actually, I would give that to both of them. Would you say both De Niro and DiCaprio did fairly good on those?
Well, this is what I was saying earlier with when I do like the scoring later. Well, I'll do it in two. My personal thoughts will be separate. It's like when I listen to a band that I may not like, but if they're good musicians, I can appreciate the craft and that they're good for what they do, and that's where I am with this movie. I did think the acting was top notch. Definitely, I thought De Niro and Caprio were excellent. There was even some other cameos. Brendan Fraser even makes an appearance, and I thought he did a pretty good job, even in his small role as well.
I was going to ask about that. So some critics were saying like, "Oh God, it's Brendan Fraser, like he's the worst." And Scorsese said that he was like perfect to work with, and that was perfect for the film. So in those kind of situations, I mean, I don't mind Brendan Fraser personally. I think he's pretty good at a lot of stuff. But for those kind of situations, I'm more likely to defer to, okay, if the director thinks this is the best choice for his film, it's Martin Scorsese. He's going to know. Whereas, the critics clearly always think they probably know better than Martin Scorsese, and I don't know that to be the case.
Yeah, there's a lot of good actors in this, folks. There's people, John Lithgow, probably butchered his name. He makes an appearance, and that's one of the things that I did notice. And look, whether anyone enjoys this movie or not,
badass.
The casting is spot on, the acting is top notch, the cinematography, the filming, even the score when it opens up at the beginning with really old school blues, which goes perfectly with the time period. I was sent to this Ross earlier, folks.
Wardrobe. I mean, you're not going to, the
costumes,
automobiles.
authentic.
Yeah, you're not going to authenticity, like Gaz said. Set authenticity. This isn't Game of Thrones. You're not going to find a Starbucks cup in the background. Martin Scorsese is like not. He's meticulous, but it comes out perfect. Like there's not going to be any mistakes in the shots.
It is the best way I can do. The best way I can describe, and I guess this is getting into a bit of the scoring already. But it is a true piece of cinema, like The Irishman was, like Gangs of New York. Whether you enjoy this or not, like I personally didn't enjoy it, and we'll get to that later. But I can recognize the fact this is a true piece of cinema, and it's another historical epic that Scorsese has created. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, again, and how do you enjoy it? It's a film about women and children being exterminated. So you don't leave the theater.
It's a brutal one.
You don't leave the theater with like, I'm so impressed by the filmmaking. I feel awesome. You're like, wow, that was an incredible piece of cinema, as Gaz said, but I feel terrible. And once again, it's that Schindler's List feeling. It's about an atrocity. You're supposed to feel bad. You can appreciate the quality, as Gaz said, but it isn't like some uplifting.
No, of course not.
What would you call it? Like,
it's not a romantic comedy, that's for sure.
Yeah. Or even one of those like encouraging, like, you could do anything sports movies, the
underdogs are now going to be
like Rocky. Yeah, it doesn't leave you feeling like the underdog can rise up. You're like, oh man, like we all kind of lost that one, regardless of what side you're on. Like,
yeah, definitely.
But how did you like Jesse Plemons, the FBI character, Gaz? The FBI agent when he comes from Washington?
I thought he was pretty good, actually. He certainly added that presence. There's one moment where, minor spoiler, guys, I'll just say it's when I think he has a reason to hold DiCaprio, I shall just say, and that's a very interesting exchange.
Mm-hmm.
And he's certainly no nonsense, methodical. Certainly comes across as one of those kind of officers of the law. And I thought his performance was stellar. The same with his range, who's shown his emotion. Like I said, the acting. It's not a movie I'm a fan of, but the acting is excellent.
As Gaz said, casting is nearly perfect. So I'm wondering, what did you think about Lily Gladstone's performance as Molly?
Again, excellent. I thought she did a good job in showing that yes, she loves him. She loves Ernest. That level of sadness, again, that I hinted at earlier, particularly when she finds out later just at what Ernest has been doing, what his uncle's involved with. There's that mix of both disgust and betrayal. How could you do this to me? But she's conflicted because she does love him as well. Right. And she, for me, this movie should get an Oscar. I'll be surprised if it doesn't.
I would say it would get the special effects of wardrobe, costume.
Yeah.
I would say it would get that unquestionably.
Yeah,
but
and she's.
See how my prediction does.
I think outside of De Niro and Caprio, I think she's one of the most of the standout actors in the movie. I don't know where you are on that.
That's what I thought.
She is.
That's what I thought. I mean, like, De Niro is pure evil, and I'm like, I know it's Robert De Niro, but holy crap, do I hate this character? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, he was
again,
not nice at
I
all.
thought Ernest or DiCaprio does a very good job as Ernest of showing, as you said, emotions for his
Yeah.
family, but also compliance with going along with his uncle's agenda,
Yeah.
which is clearly pure evil. And
Yeah.
he's able to be manipulated, as you said.
It's sad as well, because when she first meets Ernest, and a spoiler, there's a humorous exchange, and you can see how that chemistry is going to develop, because I thought the chemistry between her and Caprio was good. And then, of course, as events are revealed throughout the movie, then it's almost there's one particular scene, and I'll have to drop the spoiler here, folks, but it's in a courtroom towards the end of the movie, and when when the court's detailing what Ernest and his uncle have been doing, the look on her face, that like kind of as I've said, that this disgust, and just how could you do this? I love you, and how could you do? I thought her reaction to hearing those words in that room, I thought that was a very powerful scene, because it was that quietness, and you could see it. That was one of the standouts. Yeah.
I mean, would you say it's on Molly's character in the script and the narrative to exemplify how the Osage people feel as a, you know what I mean? It's kind of she's kind of the conduit for representing the whole tribe's, emotion.
Yeah, you were 100% on. I was literally just about to say that she is pretty much set up as the figurehead, has all of their feelings, emotions, thoughts, all combined, rolled into one. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know, guys. Like I said, I'm not going to really dive into too many, spoilers or plot elements on this. You could read the book, check out the trailers. Of course, you could go see the film. And as Gaz said, I think the real strengths were Martin Scorsese's directing, editing, obviously the score, as Gaz said, music, of course, wardrobe. One thing I will highlight before we go out is it basically begins and it ends on a Osage different rituals. The entrance ritual is them burying the peace pipes, and it's kind of representing like each one of them dying off, being killed by these evil white colonizers. And then at the end, as things are generally resolved, I don't even know how to put it, Gaz. There's no retribution, but I suppose there's a small amount of justice served, which Gaz was alluding to, and it kind of ends on an Osage, tribal ritual dance circle, drum circle, which powerful scenes.
It's although this kind of, as Ross has said, I guess, a small, very small. I'm really hesitant to say.
Yeah, I don't know what word to use to describe it.
That's because when you think about what the guy did, even though what his fate was, it still leaves you. Well, there wasn't really justice here.
No, I mean, dude. When you read like the kind of stuff, the behind the scenes stuff I was just reading, and then they had the text at the end of the film, Gaz, when they did the kind of that radio on stage Broadway sequence. Which I don't mind. I do want to point something out about that. The other thing they showed was, remember those old Fox News clips, and what was that? The Tulsa, was that Black Wall Street or whatever, where the whites came in and they totally burned down that black neighborhood, and they had the Osages were watching it on the old projectors, and they were like, I like that juxtaposition of like, hey, we got to take a stand now, or else this is going to happen to us. Now that was Oklahoma, so that was let's turn on the news, and it's kind of more in the same in Oklahoma of just the complete vicious, out of control oppression. And I did think they did a good job of, the corruption of the police, the corruption of the medical doctors, and how they were lobbying Washington to get an FBI presence. And there was just like, for a long time, there was no response until they paid the cash fee, right? And that's
and there's one and
agent out there.
Yeah, and to pick up on that point you're saying about them lobbying Washington, there's a scene, particularly when Molly goes to to appeal to Washington, literally to the president.
Yeah.
And
I think a senator, right? She speaks directly to a senator. Yeah.
And that scene was absolutely awful. I don't mean in the film quality, literally for what happens. She's pretty much for how it makes you feel and how she's treating that scene. And that's all I will say, folks. And when you see it, it just makes you shake your head and just think nothing changes.
But how could this happen? You know, like okay, it's the 20s and the 30s, things were different, but there's human and then there's inhuman, you know, and I think that's the line Scorsese really walks in this film. Two more things, and then I'm pretty much ready for a rating. The one dude that they met up with, the Hale group, what was he, like a pro cowboy? Gaz, he had all the awards. Those were like one of the cameos, and they were asking him for contractors. I thought he was pretty badass. Just as far as a cameo performance.
Do you know, man? I don't. You know, even when you get a good movie, and we can sometimes say, well, there was this weak part in the acting on this sequence, or that character was forgettable or wasn't very good. I mean, but in this, as I said, even the smaller cameos, the acting is up there. I don't feel that there was any part that detracted from the performance.
Agreed. Quite a few native actors as well, and then Jesse Plemons' character, the FBI agent, he had that other native dude with him. It was like half and half. That was like, I don't know if so he played Tom White, and I don't know, I can't remember if that guy was an agent or just his assistant. But yeah, there's a lot of little nice little notes in there, guys. It's not too whitewashed from what I saw. What was I going to say? Yeah, that final sequence, Scorsese kind of does this outro wrap up that kind of does, I guess, presenting the news of the time. I think it's supposed to be like a radio program, but the way they presented it is on screen. And Scorsese actually reads those lines at the end. I don't know if you know what he looks like, guys. I assume that you do. Saw that scene when. Okay, so what did you think of like his decision to include himself? Because it shows how seriously he took the material, you know.
Well, I think for that reason, because he wants to highlight it and not make it forgettable, so that people will talk about it and say, "Look, Scorsese himself appeared at the end for that reason," so it doesn't leave the consciousness.
Agreed. I think the only other thing that I know of him cameoing in, and he might have one or two others. If you're a Scorsese fan, you can throw it in the comments. Is Taxi Driver? He's in that car in the sequence, and then he's also sitting out front of one of the buildings. Again, that was '76. So if that's the first time we've seen him on screen since Taxi Driver, that was almost 50 years ago, right? So I'm sure he does have a couple other little cameos. But that's pretty much it for me, guys. I'm going to go to ratings, and Gaz can do his final breakdown. Definitely, I would say check it out. It's long. You might want to stream this one at home, guys, because it is almost 4 hours long. It's 3.5 hours long. It's very long, very impactful, very dark, very emotional. Filmmaking is top notch, amazing casting, amazing acting, as Gaz said, but extremely long feature film. It's currently got an 8 on IMDb. I gave it an 8. You could say I'm biased because I'm Sicilian, so I'm a Martin Scorsese fanboy, so all I do is watch DiCaprio and De Niro movies. It's kind of true, but I still gave it an 8. Gaz, go ahead.
I could say about the same with me, man. With okay, before I criticize it, I'll be equal and criticize myself.
I'm not saying that it's an uncriticizable film.
No.
You just heard me tell you how long it was 4 or 5 times, but Gaz gets his opinion too. You know.
Let me put it like this, and Ross will agree with this. If this was set in ancient Japan, I would be saying something totally different, wouldn't I? I'd be going,
it's just some samurai reading a scroll book in the jungle for 2 hours. Gaz is like, did you see the Japan backdrop? So good, coming soon, by the way.
Oh man, well, I've given a heads up on that in a moment. And
an outro,
and a good samurai anime that you want to check out for. Anyway, so I'm going to do this in two reviews here. So production, costumes, acting, score, the cinema masterpiece itself, I have to give that a 10 for that reason. I can recognize that. Yeah, you have to do.
Like you said,
my personal score would probably be about a 6. too long, incredibly boring. It's over 3 hours of my life I'm never going to get back. If you want to experience butt pain in a movie theater, you will certainly get it. I would have rather watched a documentary about what happened about this. I know the subject matter, it's not going to leave you feeling joyful or entertaining. I appreciate that. And I am not for 1 minute not recognizing what had happened or hating on any of that at all. Not for 1 minute. As a movie to watch, it's just too long, very, very boring. And that's
Gaz. I think what Gaz is alluding to is it's a dialogue-driven drama.
Yeah.
So if you have 2 to 3 hour sequences, or 3 1-hour sequences, it still amounts to a movie that's almost 4 hours, and it's mostly talking. There is action sequences, but they're very short bursts. And then all of the segue, transition scenes, it's all dialogue. So
and that's the
Gaz's
problem.
Opinion stands,
That's the problem. And it kind of is a bit like literally theatre film. If they'd maybe put an intermission in this halfway through, you could watch, say, 90 minutes and then 15, 20-minute intermission break, I think people like myself would probably appreciate it so much more, because then it literally is like film theatre.
I've heard a couple other reviews bring up if Hollywood theater movies are going to be 4 hours long, to bring back intermissions. Gaz is not the first person I've heard say this. I agree. I don't think it should be 3 or 4 hours even to begin with, but if it is a mandatory intermission. So shout out to Vega the Chosen. When him and I saw The Hateful Eight, we saw,
I was just saying big ups, Vega. I didn't know if he was in the chat.
When him and I went to The Hateful Eight, we went to a road show, which I think I told you about, Gaz. It's the old style films.
Oh, remember? Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Whatever it is, the 80 millimeter or 90 millimeter old school projection screens. And they had because that movie's pretty long. It's a Western, it's a drama Western,
good film.
Very long. And that actually had an intermission in the road show. So we were we were able to go get our beers and get our popcorn. And that's the last time I've had intermission. Was literally the one road show I went to. So I agree with Gaz there,
Yeah. I mean, it's better than Expendables 4, that's for sure. That's a far shorter movie.
Expendables 4 is a struggle to be a 2.
Yeah. But for me personally, even though it's period driven and I appreciate what happened, it would have, and I'm not saying I can only, I'm just used to watching non-stop action, that's all you can watch. No, I would have just, and I given the subject matter, it would be difficult to do this, but it's just not enough happening in that sense for me. And again, just a big struggle and very, very painful. I think Ross already knew what I thought of it. Just when all I said, literally, I said, yeah, I've seen it. That's it. Ross, whenever I message Ross on WhatsApp with anything like that, and I text him or whatever, he always knows I haven't enjoyed something so much, because I'm like, yeah, I've seen it. So he already knows there and then what I think of whatever it is.
100%. So that being said, just to play devil's advocate, Gaz, what did you think of the small action-driven scenes like the bandit heists and how they did the montage of was that more enjoyable? I mean, I know it's showing you something horrible on screen plot-wise, but as far as keeping the forward motion progress of the transition, were those the higher parts to you because there was something going on screen?
Because something happened, and I thought they were authentic at that time. It that Untouchables vibe, and that was the movie I think with Tom Hardy. Was it Tom Hardy in the Prohibition movie? The one I'm thinking of.
I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah, well, the Taboo was the other thing, right? It's not.
That was the big time. And I thought they were very, very authentic for that time. Obviously, very, very brutal. But it just gave you something. Like I said, it's a weird one because people could be watching this and think, hang on a minute. The first part of this review, this guy's saying the acting is awesome, the filming, the editing, everything there. And now he's saying, and that's why I split it in two. It's because it's the same as I said with music. If I get a band where it's not my particular style, but if they're good musicians, they're good at what they do, I can still say, well, they're good for that genre. It's not what I personally like. And it's the same with this. I said this when we've been talking about it off air. If someone watches this and says, oh, yeah, I don't like it, whatever, that's fine. Everything is subjective anyway.
Exactly.
But you've got to be able to recognize the craft that's gone in to the cinema aspect. it is a true piece of cinema. There's no doubt about that. And we don't get that very much at all. I think, like we were both just saying, if you had that intermission period, I think people such as myself would probably appreciate it far more.
I agree. Then you don't have to, like Gaz said, struggle and wait there. I mean, I didn't get up once during this movie, guys. I sat through the whole thing just because I felt like if I left and something crazy happened, I was going to be like, I wouldn't be able to reconcile it for myself because I'm you guys know I'm big into American history, American true crime history, and I think there's basically like 3 or 4 subplot movies within this film. There's the love story between the two main characters, like we said. There's the pure evil agenda and the conspiracy of Hale's, colonization of the resources. Yeah. There is the true crime story of the atrocity that was done to the Osage people by the villains, and that kind of gets exploited through Tom White's character. So even if what your interest is just the true crime, solving of this, I guess kind of semi unsolved crime, we say, there were kind of some consequences, but I think not as much as anyone would like. That would be more of wading into the book, Killers of the Flower Moon, and it also covers a little bit of the FBI, because in the
it does a little bit.
FBI, because in this movie it's the BOI. The Bureau of Investigation. That's when Tom comes down. That's before they've actually transitioned to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So kind of a little bit like when you see, I totally spaced on it. The movie with Matt Damon and Robert De Niro, that is about the Skull and Bones and the CIA. It's not the Good Shepherd, is it? I think it might be the Good Shepherd.
God, I know.
It covers the OSS, which is the origin of the CIA. Yeah. This is kind of like a little subplot of that, covering the origin of the Bureau of Investigation before the FBI. So I don't know. That's just basically all I got. You guys should definitely check it out. Zodiac Files episode 4 coming soon. Did you have any final thoughts, guys? Or
just if you're going to watch it, folks, I think, as Ross said, best way is probably to watch it in 2 halves. That would be the best way. Just thanks for everybody who supported the show. Greatly appreciated. Check out both channels, Planet X Films, Fed Up. We multi-stream. We've got lots we're working on behind the scenes in the future, where we'll be doing various subjects on, whatever fits best on one channel, we'll do it there, or if it fits better here. So there's always stuff we're working on, folks. So just support them both, stay up, and keep it locked. And thanks again, and peace out, everybody. Have a good weekend.
Killers of the Flower Moon, Martin Scorsese, Robert De Niro, Leonardo DiCaprio, Lily Gladstone. Go check it out. I think Gaz was right. Best bet is streaming at home, guys. So you can pause it every hour and take your breaks. Don't have to sit there for a 4-hour movie to do online film reviews and die like me.
Sorry, if that being said, you're right. And again, it can come down to personal taste, because if this was set in ancient Japan and it was literally a dude just reading the scrolls you said for 4 hours, you might be boring. I'd be like, no, and this is epic.
Yeah, it was incredible. It was perfect. Gaz is looking forward to the Shogun coming soon. We were talking that actor from John Wick, Chapter 4 is the lead, and we were talking about how cool he is. Zodiac Files episode 4 is coming soon, guys. The Gaviota Beach murder is working on that with my man Gabe. Hopefully Zodiac Files debate series volume 2. Like I said, if we can get everybody's schedule right, we'll work to get that out ASAP for you guys. The comic book is on Amazon. It is called The Dark Rift Volume 1 Escape Earth. Go check that out. We're looking to get a Taxi Driver review up here. And we might have a big film interview coming up soon. Not going to say too much about that, but we did just have Lauren Lepre of Dark Military Rogue. You can go check that out on the channel. But if you're new here, guys, best bet is subscribe. We're probably going to do some subscriber-only streams post 900s, launch memberships in the next 40 subs. So definitely like, subscribe, share. It goes a long way. And subscribe over on Fed Up with Gaz as well.
Final shout as well, folks. I say this every show. If you ever have any recommendations for any movies, TV series, even music you want us to have a look at, let us know. Drop them in the comments. Contact either one of us, and we'll look at it and we'll do a show on it.
Yeah, legacy stuff. I've been thinking about doing some Kurosawa. I've been thinking about doing, obviously, Taxi Driver. I've been thinking about doing They Live. I've been thinking about doing
They live
Point
definitely.
Break. We'll have more on that later. I know They Live reviews do decent numbers on YouTube. So that's the Legacy Vault. But like I said, we'll do the new stuff. We'll do the old stuff. I don't think there's too much new out right now. Obviously, Invincible just dropped, but I think it's only episode 1. Gaz and I will work to get Warrior Season 3 review up. I had a little technical difficulty. I'll work that out and get it screened. But other than that, I don't think there's much news. We might be doing the Legacy backlog for a while until something actually good comes out.
Check out Blue Eye Samurai. It just dropped on Netflix. I'm only 1 episode in. I like what I've watched so far. Hopefully the rest of the season stays good. And there is also another anime samurai series just dropped. Probably got the title wrong, but it is kind of fantasy mixed with Musashi Miyamoto, one of the most famous samurai ever. Check that. And there's a film that I'm going to tell Ross about off air, which we could possibly look at. There's a Vietnamese martial arts action movie. It's new. It's just dropped as well, but I haven't watched it yet. So there's some possibilities. But again, folks, just get it as if there's anything you want us to look at. And thanks for all your support. And peace out, y'all.
Yeah, just leave your suggestions below, guys. Old stuff, new stuff, whatever it is, we'll review it. Like I said, the true crime shows are coming back. Z-Files episode 4. Like, sub, share. The links are in the link tree. The donations buttons work, guys. You know what I mean? So we'll like I said, there's going to be some big changes coming up. Kid, check the rhyme. Yeah, I hear you, man. I agree. We'll go out on his. Appreciate it, fellas. It's a sad story, the Osage people, but a great true crime story. Yeah, no, I mean, it's definitely some interesting true crime history, early American history. But shout out to everybody who came through. Appreciate y'all. If you're new, like, sub. It goes a long way. Sub both channels, myself and Gaz over at Fed Up. Like I said, suggestions below, old stuff, new stuff we'll do. We're probably going to be doing the backlog for a while until something that we're all into comes out. And that might be like until The Boys season 4. Sorry. Guys, go check out Killers of the Flower Moon 1.